All right, this filming now. Welcome to Artist to Artist, and that is a series that we have started off of ARTSPEAK, and that is about two artists just sitting down and talking, and that's what we were going to do. We've got in the room Jose Trujillo, and he is, my gosh, I tell you, Jose is one that he doesn't know me very well, but I know him kind of well because I have looked at his videos. I have seen his stuff on the internet. Everywhere I go, his name kind of pops up somewhere. So we're going to talk to him, and we're going to find out a little bit more about what he does and how he does it. So, hey, Jose, thanks for coming. I really appreciate it.
Hey, thank you for having me, Phil. I appreciate it as well. Thank you.
Yeah, we're gonna talk to you about your art, which I actually started looking at how much art has this guy done, and it's quite a full load of stuff. So, how many pieces have you done, by the way?
Man, I don't know the exact number, but I have. I mean, I'm sure the exact number is somewhere in our files. But I have done and sold. I know for sure over 100,000 pieces.
My gosh,
Yeah,
that's a lot.
that is for sure.
That is a whole lot. 100,000 pieces.
Yeah, created and sold. I've created way more than 100,000 pieces, but created and sold.
Wow, wow. And here's the deal. What normally I do is I start talking about, or I have you start talking about who you are and your story and everything. I had a problem with you because I got on your about page and you covered all my questions. I mean, everything was there that it was like, okay, well, let's ask him this. No, it's all right here. So I tell you what, why don't you start and just give a kind of you don't have to give the full load, but give a summary of your background. I know you're from Guadalajara and stuff like that, and kind of how you grew up and got to where you sold 100,000 pieces. So go ahead, take it away.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm originally from Mexico, from Guadalajara. When my family migrated here when I was about 10 years old, and I got I got interested in art somewhere around junior high. I remember drawing and getting interested in art when I was a kid. During the mid '90s, somewhere around the mid '90s, amongst Mexican and Chicano kids, the whole lowrider culture was very popular, and so kids would see that I could draw, and they would ask me, "Hey, can you draw this? Can you draw it?" I was like, "Okay." So I started very early realizing that I could monetize my work because they would give me 10, $20, whatever. But I realized I was making up to $400 a week just drawing this stuff. And at some point I was like, man, this would be great if I did this as a job. But then I let it go, and I got into music and whatnot. And somewhere when I was about 14 years old, I got into oil painting again. And my professor, art teacher in school, his name was Fred Fowles, and he was a pilot, but he was really much into art, and he's the one who guided me towards oil painting. Basically, what he did was just give me oil paints that nobody was using in school. He's like, yeah, if you're interested in this thing, just go ahead and take it. So I had unlimited supply of stuff that I could play with. Canvases, oil paint and whatever. Nobody else was using them. Everybody was interested in like graffiti type of art or markers or this or that, something else. But I was like, yeah. And so by age 15, it was actually when I was about 13. From 13 to 15, I made quite a few paintings, and I had my first one-man exhibit at 15. It was this little art gallery here in Tucson called ARTSPEAK. It was owned by an Italian, a Sicilian man, and his wife, a French woman, and they both opened up this small gallery here in Tucson, Arizona, and they gave me a one person show. They were so intrigued with my work, and so So I had no idea what I was doing. I was just looking at what the Impressionists were doing. I fell in love with Impressionism. I have that background where Impressionism was like, okay, that's the art right there in my mind, right? As a 13, between 13 and 15 years old. And so I picked up painting again during that time, but then I never stuck with it. I would do it on the weekends. I would do it whenever I had time, but not as a thing that I could do every day. I come from, again, an immigrant background, so it meant that you had to have a full-time job and go to school as a kid. And so I would try to squeeze in painting time. But yeah, more time went by, and at some point I started getting a little bit more serious in my late teens. I started getting a little bit more serious, and I started getting into galleries and in gallery shows and that type of stuff. But I was painting very large. I had learned at that point. I had learned how to do murals, very popular Mexican murals, which come from Italy, predominantly, I believe, frescoes. And I got into that for a while, and I was just painting very large. And then I got discouraged by the whole gallery scene. I didn't see how it would work, how it would work. I'm talking about sending slides to gallery, that time, when we were
Yeah.
still sending
Yeah.
slides
Mm-hmm.
and that kind of stuff, curricular vitae letters and all of that. And I just got discouraged and I left it alone. And then I picked it up again when I was in my late 20s. And when I picked it up in my late 20s, somewhere around 28 and 30, I figured it out. I was like, okay, I see what this thing is about. And I just picked up from there.
Picked up from there. Yeah, the mural things are intriguing to me, because the fact I'm you're in Arizona, I'm in Texas, and I've gone down to like San Antonio and places like that, and the murals are beautiful. I mean, they're striking.
Yeah.
But you diverted from that. You went ahead and took on canvas, and you went down that stroke and took on Impressionist and went
Yeah.
down that road. And that road led you to where you're at today, which is a lot of paintings. So how can you get out? I mean, you said two things. You said I did 100,000, and these are sold paintings, and I probably did more. But to me, it's like you did 100,000 and you sold 100,000. I mean, that to me is like, okay, these are, and we are talking. We're not talking prints here. We're talking originals, correct?
Originals only.
And that started at about what age for you when you started with this, counted up until that point?
I had I was just about 29 years old when I started.
29.
Yeah, 29 years old when I started. And somebody told me um it was early. I had just turned 29, and somebody had told me, "Hey, you should try um Craigslist," you know, because I was selling some stuff on Craigslist. Businesses were closing and whatnot. It was during the what they call the Great Recession, right? And so businesses were closing, and the business where I was working was closing. We were closing our shop on. We had a shop, my wife and I, downtown. It was a women's clothing boutique. We were closing that as well, and I just felt like the walls were like coming in on me.
Mhm, mhm.
And so I was like, okay, what do I do? And so somebody was like, you're selling all this stuff on Craigslist, and I had all these paintings there. I was like, yeah, put the paintings there. Like because I didn't want to. I wasn't thinking, oh, I'm gonna go become an artist. I was thinking I want to get rid of this stuff so that I can make some money. Um, and so I went on Craigslist and I made an art sale. Like, come and get the stuff that I made a whole video on YouTube. It's I think it's my most popular video on YouTube. It's like how I did the sale. And yeah, in a weekend I made 525 bucks, and I was like, oh man, this is great. I mean, I needed the 525 bucks. I only had $30 to my name. I had $30 in my pocket, and I was like, I need some money like yesterday. And so I just started selling everything I had. And I realized that there was a market. It was for the first time it hit me. There is a market for what you do and how you do it and whatever. The problem is you never tapped into it because you were trying to do what everybody else was doing, which was, I'm going to be this elegant artist that has this price points, and don't you dare ask me to put him down. And I'm going to do this, and that. And I refused to start from the bottom and work myself up. Now, I'm not saying that that's the only way to do it, but that's what I was refusing.
Now
I was refusing to start from the bottom.
that's very interesting, because you sold on Craigslist and you refused to start at the bottom. To me, Craigslist is kind of, whoa, we're kind of down at the bottom. I mean, that's not like a New York Museum gallery type of scenario.
Yeah.
We're on Craigslist.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
This is something that I want the audience to understand. This is something that I've seen about you and has drawn me to you. Not just the large amount of paintings, but it's like you let everything go. You put everything out there. I've seen videos on videos on videos of you just doing paintings and then giving information, and then it's like you're on eBay. Your thing is on. I'll bring that up here in a little bit, but now you brought up Craigslist. I mean, it's like you go on these places that a lot of artists don't necessarily go.
Yeah, no. And to be honest here, Phil, the reason why I went to those places is because they're unconventional. Most people say, "Well, I want to be an artist, but I don't want to give my stuff away." You'll hear most of the conversation is about how I can somehow. I think it's a very purist conversation that happens in artists' minds. Is how I can keep my artwork, my dignity, and and yet still make a living doing it. And it's like, well, I feel like the bar is a little too high. It's like trying to make some income in sales and say, but I refuse to pick up the phone and make phone calls, but I refuse to go and knock on the door.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I want to sell things, but I refuse to do this work that is going to require me to lose my face, to become vulnerable, and
Right.
put myself in a position that that I'm going to be perceived as in need, or you know what I mean?
Well, it's kind of like it's beneath me, or it's a little bit lower
Yeah,
where I want to be, and I want to be here, and I want this stuff, and it's like, no, it doesn't.
yeah. And I would hear this all the time, and I would even say things like that, like, oh, this is beneath me. No, I gotta be over here. And it wasn't until I started, growing up and learning things that no, the person who's making a great living as in sales is probably getting the door slammed in their face. People are probably hanging up on them.
Mhm.
The car salesperson that
Mhm.
is making, I don't know, multiple six figures or six figures or whatever, is probably being turned down all the time. No, no, thank you. I'm just here to see. No, thank you. No, thank you.
Right.
And it's like, why aren't we okay with no? Why aren't we okay with putting ourselves in a vulnerable position as artists?
So let's do this. Let's bring. I want to show people your eBay, because I have just thought that was just absolutely astounding screen that you are actually on eBay selling art. Again, it's like you're doing the non-conventional, and it appears to work for you. Everybody has their own way of doing it, but this is, to me, non-conventional. And
Yeah.
it's just like this is your artwork, and it is just amazing what you do. Now we're going to get into your style. We're going to get into your creative part. I want to know about you and how you do this art. And if you want to pick one of these, I will pick one that you're looking at, and then I could actually, well, this is a fairly static one. Let's do this one here. Do you have a name on this
Is
piece?
that the Forrest Gump?
Oh, is that yeah, well, I don't know. It doesn't have a name. I don't. Yeah, it's a Forrest Gump. It's original Forrest Gump. So this is your style, right? I mean, this is kind of a basic look of what you normally do on most of your paintings, correct?
Right.
I mean, it is impressionistic, and it is. So what got you into the Forrest Gump one? What was this? Was this just one of these days that I feel like a Forrest Gump, or I like Forrest Gump, or?
I mean, I one of the things that I do is I like to keep things fresh for my collectors. And so I try not to do one thing too much. And so I started looking at movie posters and I was like, man, they look so cool. I wonder how I could interpret them as a painting. You know, if I were to interpret uh, a movie scene or a movie poster or something like that. And so I did E.T., I did Forrest Gump. I don't know what other one I did. I did It, the clown,
Right.
the It clown. Um, but yeah, no, it's not necessarily that or it might be, I don't know, that I'm going through something in my mind and the painting comes out. It might be at some level, but maybe subconsciously, but consciously, what I try to do is to keep it fresh. I'm always thinking about new ways of interpreting things, you know, reinterpreting things and coming up with different subject matter and themes.
So you're kind of like going at it from a point of more subject matter
Yeah,
at this stage, as far as your impressionistic work goes. And just the subject is the primary that you're looking for, because I'm noticing with your painting style, this is not these aren't bright colors. These aren't
no,
really a haberdashery of a lot of different splotches on something, but you keep it somewhat, you know, tinted to a certain extent. It's not really bold and popping outside of you, but you have a good mix between the variety of colors that you're using here. So is that kind of where your other art is? I mean, as far as in similar style?
yeah. I don't change the palette at all. I've been using the same palette for the past 12 years. Um, I don't change the palette. I move colors here and there, but I don't change them at all. Um, I try different mixes with the same palette. Um, but yeah, my thing is I like to move subject matter. Like for example, there's a lot of Halloween stuff right now
Yeah,
because my auctions run for 10 days. And so I painted some of those yesterday and the day before yesterday. And so they're going to end in 10 days. 10 days from now, it's going to be the mid of October, right?
right.
And so it's going to be just in time for people to to get their painting, their Halloween painting, if that's something they're looking at or they're looking for.
Yeah, this is a different venue. eBay, I mean, you've got these out for bids, so it's a little bit different than, I mean, what normal artists would probably do, just put them on a website and say there is no bidding. It's just this is the price.
This is
So
the price.
do you start out with these paintings at a certain reserve that needs to be met, or is it just you put it in as zero and somebody bids on it, or is it a time thing to kind of give me an idea, because some people may not know how eBay works.
Yeah, no, absolutely. What I do is I put one of the painting. I put the painting on eBay and I start the auction at $1 with no reserve. And so if you win it at $1, you won it at $1. You know, I'm hoping you don't win it at $1,
I could see that.
but I'm hoping you fight uh, to the end for it. But that's the idea. Um,
But
and it really,
it's a day by day thing. You give it a certain amount of days, right? That this will end, and who's ever priced it at that point in time, I take it that's what, because you got one here next to each other, this 9 bid one of this looks like scissors hand, and then you got
yeah,
this duck, and we've got a $37 and there are 9 bids on it. And we've got 33 bids on this. We got $303 on it. It's 15 hours left. So once those
yeah,
15 hours goes, whoever gets to that point, that's the sell.
that's the sell. Yeah,
Wow.
and most of the auctions, uh, they end like 5 minutes. 5 minutes before the auction ends is where the price shifts. It can go the one that's at $300, it could stay at $300. More likely than not, it'll go up. But sometimes it'll go up to $1,000 or $2,000, in the last 5 minutes.
You also have a website that basically also has, I think I have it here. Well, we'll get into this one, but you have art on this website too, which is your original paintings. Now, most of these are at a price, and a
Right.
lot of them are basically sold out, which is,
Yeah.
I guess, a good thing. So, do you find a difference here between the art on your website, how it sells, versus the eBay and how it sells?
Yeah, it's very different. So the website, I don't necessarily, I mean, I hope people buy something here or there and on the website, but it's not where I put my effort. The website is mainly used for people to contact me. Um, and the reason for that is I haven't put much effort into, like, as you can see, uploading more work, which is something that we're going to start doing, but I haven't put much effort into uploading new work and work that's not sold, to removing the work that is sold. Uh, the reason for that is because a website is something that you have to drive traffic to,
Right.
where
Right.
a shop on Etsy, on eBay, on Amazon, or any other Saatchi Art, any other place, a shop is where people go to. People go to that website and then they find your shop. A website is something very different. You have to drive traffic there, and if you're not driving traffic, not much is going to happen there.
So would you say the website's probably more of a point of, for that, like a collector base, like I know Jose, I know what he does, and this is some of his work.
Yeah, yeah, basically. Now there are plenty of artists who sell directly on their website,
Mm,
but they're probably using some other traffic source. They're probably marketing themselves on Instagram, and then
right.
there's a link to their website.
Right. I
You
think
know,
I think that's how most artists go. That's how I go. I mean,
yeah,
I didn't ever think about the point of the eBay scenario. I mean, you've got, and these aren't the thing that amazed me about the eBay from an artist standpoint. I mean, these aren't prices you're putting in.
no,
The website are prices you're putting in, but these are prices that are being accumulated and created on the fly as
yeah.
it goes down there. Is Do you have a part of this eBay that you do have just paintings that are at a certain price, or is everything like auction based?
No, I do have. I have plenty of stuff there. I have over, I think, nearly 3,000 or 2,900, I think, items on eBay, and 99% of them are set price. It's only the oil paintings here that I put that are auction. Uh, but interesting though, it's the even though I have 99% of my product on eBay is buy it nows, and only 1% is auction. Um, 99% of my income comes from the auction, from that 1%.
Is that right?
Yeah, on eBay,
Wow.
anyways. Yeah.
Wow. So, and I haven't looked too deep into these sizes of these. Are most of these at a certain size of these types of paint? They look like they are, but that could be just because of the graphic. But I mean, are there different? You have large ones, small ones. Are you keeping within a certain set bounds of
I,
dimension?
I keep within a certain size because of shipping restrictions.
Mm,
And but they're mostly somewhere around 8 inches, between 8 by 8 inches and 14 by 14, or 10 by 20 inches. So
okay.
I would say anywhere between 8 and 20 inches.
I mean, just wild. I mean, this cat right here. I mean, that's That's just that's wild. And that's at 99 cents. I would like that cat. I mean, that's not a bad one.
It's
But
right there. It's a
yeah, it's
click
right
away.
there. Now we can do the sale, right? Okay. That's how it goes down. No, this is wonderful. I mean, never thought of it, but it is an avenue I guess artists should be looking at, saying, because you brought up Craigslist. I mean, my gosh, I mean, this is like these things are out there too. But I believe also, Jose, that there's a lot of misdirection for beginning artists and stuff from other artists who made it big a certain way or made it big in days past, like through a gallery or through something like that, and then they tout it saying this is what we should be doing now. And
Right.
I look at it from a point saying, I don't know what we should be doing now. I mean, but there are many things out there, more things to choose from, um, than just the norm of what people used to do.
Right.
So this is interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard everything nowadays from different artists. Some artists are making their income by teaching classes. Some artists are making their income strictly from print making,
Yeah,
uh, from TikTok videos, from YouTube videos. Um, and then there's a handful of artists doing what I'm doing on eBay, uh, selling auctions, and I mean it's just all over the place. There's just so many different ways to monetize if you're an artist. Um, I don't think there's a right or wrong way. It's just a matter of finding out what you are good at, going with that, and then hopefully you find people who enjoy what you're doing, and then charge for the work. The what I would recommend artists, me personally, because this is what worked for me, is don't say no to starting from the bottom.
mm, mm,
Don't be shy about starting from the bottom.
mm,
I too want to sell the $10,000, $100,000 pieces. I too put effort into getting that income coming in, and making those sales. But I don't say no to a $1 auction, something that's starting, something that is starting at $1. I don't say no to a $100 watercolor. I don't say no to whatever. I'm not saying do everything and do it all. I think that could be overwhelming. It certainly has been for me. Uh, but pick something and start from the bottom and see what that feels like. See um, if you can start monetizing it. I think if you have any sort of talent, personally, this is what I think. If you have any sort of talent, uh, any little bit of talent where you put effort into something, as soon as you start putting effort into something, you start developing talent. So anywhere where you put a little bit of effort, I would say, let me give you an example. This is a 6x6 sheet of watercolor paper. I think, based on my experience and what I've seen out there, if it takes you an hour to make, just 1 hour to make, I think you can sell it easily for $100. I really do believe that. And it's just a matter of how many can you sell in a single day and how many can you do. You could maybe do one or you could do 10. This is the way we consume. And what I'm trying to say is not so much credit. We we consume in small chunks,
right.
but we end up consuming. The same thing with everything, right? Whether it's air, water, calories, we consume everything in small chunks. But how much is that in a year? How much is that in 6 months or in 5 years or whatever? It's a lot. It's just that we do it in small chunks that it doesn't feel hard.
I like your style. I mean, I really do. I think that really says a lot about how art can be sold and how art is defined. It's not old world Renaissance style anymore as far as to show and say this is how art is. It is changed. It is different out there. And since we're all consumers, I mean, the art should also be in that consuming type of session. You could say, well, artists say, well, I'm in competition. I've got to sell it for higher or whatever. No, but the difference is it's original. It's yours. You've got your name on it. It's somebody buying something that is absolutely original. That's why I think the digital art, AI art, and all this other stuff doesn't have necessary play on artists. I mean, the art is still, from my standpoint, defined as my work and my time that I put into it. And it shows on a piece of canvas or paper or whatever. And that's what I'm selling. Now, if I'm selling it at $10,000, that's one thing. If I'm selling it at $3, that's another. It's still original. And I think that's why artists aren't going away. I don't think artists, because how can another human copy you perfectly and say that's you or that's even me? And how can you come in here with a digital print and say, okay, that's worth more than what the original is? And it's not. It's just not.
Absolutely.
So
agree. Couldn't agree more.
And that's what I want to hear you say. You couldn't agree more. That's where we're gonna go. Well, Jose, I do appreciate it. I thank you for coming on. This has been quite a treat. As long as we're getting even close to, I've seen your Halloween stuff out there. We're getting close to Halloween, so it's like trick or treat. But I mean, this was more of a treat than a trick. And I really do like you, and want to get to know you more. We're going to bring you on a little bit later and down the road, and we're going to delve a little bit deeper in. So anybody who's watching wants to know a little bit more about Jose, I'll have that information on the website and probably on YouTube, so you can get to them. And Jose, again, I appreciate it a whole bunch.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I appreciate it as well, Phil. And yeah, let's do it again. Awesome.
That's where we go. Art is where it's at. Thank you.